So I want to say a warm welcome to panelists. All of them, as you know, have been introduced, and I know most of them through my years in the pharma. So it's nice to be back and meet you all, though albeit on the stage. It's also good to be back in OPPI. So hopefully we have an hour and 5 minutes as we scheduled originally. We're running late, but I guess we will use the 1 hour 5 minutes. Very exciting topic. It's some kind of crystal ball gazing with some levers that we have in front of us and say, how do you think we will take it forward? So as practitioners, it will be very exciting and informative to actually hear from all of you as to what you think these levers will play out and how in your own view we will get ready for the political period. So as an introduction, I just want to kind of say that at EY we are very happy to kind of be the knowledge partners here and also bringing this live event to you. From that sense, you know, to give a little bit of context to this, you know, in the Amrit Kal period of 25 years, there's been so much of upswing expected in the there's so much uplift in the economy that is expected. A 26 trillion economy, we are almost a 4 billion economy, almost. The manufacturing sector is going up, is predicted to go up. The services sector is supposed to boom, and there is an increase in affordability and a per capita income increase from about 1,800 to about 15,000 in that period. All this augurs well for us as Indians and also for us in the pharma world. Not to forget that we are experiencing, as the previous speakers had spoken, a lot of digitalization that's happening and around in the environment, and that's pouring into pharma as well. Added to that, you also have new modalities and new areas that Indian pharma is getting into. We just heard the previous speaker talk about CAR-T, we have PROTACs, oligonucleotides, high potency, APIs, and of course innovation in formulation itself. So these have made beginnings, but as these kind of take shape, the next 25 years is going to be very interesting. Not to forget that the ecosystem that's developing through diagnostics, the entire digital environment around it, the platforms that are coming, all those kind of really connive to inflect the whole healthcare delivery. You know, we've always fallen short of doctors, always fallen short of resources. Is the digitalization of the entire ecosystem going to make a difference? So I'm quite excited, as perhaps everybody else in the audience, to kind of hear from you. So without much ado now, I'm going to be asking the first question to the Pidama of the Indian pharma, I would like to call Mr. Sudarshan Jain. Sir, wonderful having you. You've had a brilliant stint in the OPPI and as MDs of multiple companies of OPPI members. Now you are the head honcho in the IPA. How do you see the future of Indian healthcare evolving in this Amrit Kal period? How do you see the ecosystem developing? And very important question is, who will be the key players there? Over to you, sir.
So thank you very much, Suresh, and thanks to Anil, Suresh, and the OPPI team for inviting me here. It is back home because I've spent a major part of my life at OPPI and all of you, many of you here. So it's emotional, it is good to be right back. It is also great to be part of a very distinguished panel. We got all stalwarts, and it was great to hear Meenakshi and Monica great friends over the years, lead doing for this country of good food. We have worked together for a long period of time. So what I like to say is very short, given the whole thing, we have been working on the vision for the industry. India has got strategic scale, great advantages in the pharma industry. You've got depth and scale as far as this industry is concerned. $50 billion industry, $25 billion exports and $25 billion domestic market, $18 billion net foreign exchange earnings among top 5 sectors. And the industry is of critical importance. Every third tablet in US is sold from India. We get a saving of around $80 billion to US. Every fourth tablet in Europe is sold from India. This is the place where we are. But as Meenakshi rightly said, and Suresh in his opening comments highlighted, we have to go a long way. And I will say 5 dimensions which are very important, and they are common for whether it is IPA, whether it is OPPI, whether it is IDMA. And Suresh was there when we were there with the FDA Commissioner. All of us have to play a role to achieve the vision of the Indian industry. Amrit Kaal, the way we put it, we should be among top number 1 in terms of volume in the world and among top 5 in value as far as going forward. Current turnover is $50 billion. Number of studies we have done, we should be around $400 billion at the end of 2047. 10 products emerging from India every year. That's the vision which we have set. So 5 critical parts which are important going forward, and 5 benchmarks. One is quality. That cannot be any compromise as far as quality is concerned. A lot of initiatives, Suresh has been part of it. Our position is very clear, and we will hear Rajeev Raghuvanshi today. Schedule and implementation immediately. It can happen anytime. And go to ICH, quality specification. By 2030, we have to be ICH PIC compliant country around the world, because that cannot be any compromise as far as quality is concerned. Very important. And all the 3 sectors, whether OPPI, IDMA, IPA, everyone will agree to get that. But it will take time. It will require skill building. It will require commitment. It will require capacity building. And we have got Gautam from the Skill Council of India. His commitment to quality and upgrading skill is phenomenal. Point number 1. Point number 2 is innovation. It has been talked about. OPPI companies play a very important role. Suresh talked about it, Anil talked about it, because there is no way we can continue this way. 2/3 of the global market is in innovation, and we have to upgrade our sales systems to get there. And we talk of the concept of Aushad Triveni. Previous secretary described it very, very clearly. She used to talk about it. We have to combine drug, devices, and diagnosis to get it going there. And it was great to hear in one of the meetings where Meenakshi was also there. Dr. Reddy's have been given first product approval for migraine in the US. It is combination of digital devices, it is combination of diagnosis, and it is a treatment profile, and then CAR-T therapy. IIT Bombay has done a lot of work. So innovation is going to be a critical driver going forward. There is no choice, and everyone in the Indian industry can play it. Third area which is very, very important is reach. And we call ourselves Vasudev Kutumbakam. We have to be supplier of medicine both to India and globally. It was great to hear Shashank, our health secretary today. After a long time I was hearing him. And the kind of work which has been done in healthcare, 110,000 doctors passing out every year. It used to be around 30 to 40,000. Nurses capacity which has been built. Ayushman Bharat which has been launched. 160,000 wellness centers which are being created in the country. And overall out-of-pocket expenditure going down from 60 to 40%. Great achievement, but long way to go. Still, because still most of the doctors are in urban areas. Facilities which is available in rural areas is relatively good. Digitalization. Today you have been great talker of the digitalization. You have been talking of national digital health. Asking the data from all the companies will play a very important role. A fourth is reach not only in India, globally. India at the moment supplies to US, Europe. but our penetration in Africa is relatively low, China is low, Japan is very low. So great opportunity. Our penetration of biosimilars is relatively low. So great opportunity to upgrade as far as that. Reach is very, very important, both in India and globally, because India has to be the healthcare custodian of the world as far as the vision for the future is concerned. Fourth, I will say resilient supply chain. We are working closely with the US. How do we create API system around? Because we rely only on one country. There is no diversified supply chain. How do we, India plays an important role. So that is a very important area, a lot has been talked about it. And the fifth part, which has not been talked, using green technology, sustainability is going to be very, very important role. So on all these 5 dimensions going forward, a lot of work has been done on each of the areas by different groups. So it's great to see that you don't support today. We have had a number of discussions, but we will see Amrit Kal, it is an inflection point. India is going to be playing a very important role as far as healthcare is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Those 5 levers really make a lot of sense. And one of the other things that you said was also the change in mindset of how you look at them. And that will bring in, as leaders, a lot of responsibility of people sitting here. So Vikrant, moving over to you, what are your views?
Thanks a lot, Suresh, and I think it's a fantastic panel. In my life, I have thought about the long-term forecast, which has been like 5 years or 10 years, and then you are talking about 25 years. A lot can happen. But looking at India and the way the transformation has happened, I envisage India, which is technology-driven, knowledge-driven, where the treatment or the health and wellness is democratized, which is data-driven, personalized, outcome-based, and also cost-effective. And I personally believe that it can be achieved. Some of the facts and figures actually which we really see, and this is very important because anybody can dream, but how and when it can be achieved. And figures are not very important for me, to be honest, because they are the end result and lot can happen. You know, we can talk about 400 billion, but foreign exchange is determined by the money market, you know, all the inflations and the exchange rate. What is important is that our GDP growth to continue and our health index increases from now 1.9% to 2.5%. We become part of that sustainability development index. And when we talk about an economy which will grow by 6 to 8% and your penetration increases from 1.5 to 2.5, you are actually talking about doubling by 2025 all these investments. And why not? When you see some of these pointers, the fundamentals which are there, the resources and mindset bring resources. When you see the resources, it has just taken 6 years to double up the medical force in India. From 45,000 to 100,000, the figures are there and they are worth repeating again and again. How many countries can do that? In 5 or 6 years, you can develop the resources. We have actually crossed the WHO index of, doctors per population, or doctor per population. We are now 835. Similarly, pharmacists. We are now 2,500 population for one pharmacy. Medical colleges, 705 medical colleges in India. So everything is multiplying so fast in terms of an infrastructure. It is unbelievable. At the policy level, fundamental changes. Ayushman Bharat, Health Policy 2017. We are talking about pharmaceutical policy, which is talking about technology, AI, blockchain, patents, all new generation thoughts which are actually coming. So it is talking about access. It's also talking about how that access can be achieved, because it cannot be achieved without the technology. And then the third part, the pharmaceutical industry. From the entire mindset change, from the volume to value, is a game changer. It doesn't take away the volume part of it, because India requires that excess of volume. It's every nook and corner, we require that volume kind of a thing. But I think this entire value driven, where innovation comes on the Indian soil. And I don't dream that, OPPI members company, the innovation should come. Of course it should come rather than 48 months or 60 months, what Meenakshi was talking. How can we bring it as fast as we launch in US? And why not even equal to US? We talk about it many a times. At least in Novo Nordisk, I can tell you, we try to bring within 1 year of the launch of the US. And this can be done because we do research and development in India. The data is generated in India. It has become a very conducive environment where all this actually can be achieved. And the last part of it, it's basically a technology hub. It's where the digitalization is happening. We all talk about AI, ML. I think I'm a big fan of it that 6,000 startup in India. And with the law of rule, even if 2% become successful, we are talking about a startup who can gain 25,000 patients so fast. And all these things, whether it is in medtech, whether it is in health tech, I think they are going to be transformative in terms of a healthcare ecosystem. If not the pharmaceutical industry, which will multiply, but I'm a big fan, I'm not part of it actually, we are trying, but I can actually tell you, all the pharma leaders out here, we have the biggest recruitment in digital ecosystem in our own company. That will multiply very, very fast and will help in terms of the reach, in terms of an access, and in terms of a treatment, and in terms of a holistic outcome beyond the medication. Thank you.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think the consumption of pharmaceuticals will also grow if we go beyond medicine. We get better outcomes and more people come in. So thank you for your views, and Sanjeev, you're a man I've known who's always number driven. So I'm going to extend the same question, but add one more. We talked about 450 billion in the current period by 2047. So do you think that's achievable? And then you can extend yourself to comment on the others.
I think, thank you Suresh so much. I just want to start by saying from the Amrit Kal first, and then I'll come to your answer. The two things which is happening now, so the transformation, we are seeing a cusp of a transformation, so we'll have 25 years. So what we are going through is thanks to our government who are looking at Amrit Kal, which is such a good vision of 25 years, which we usually didn't see before. And therefore the vision is making this happen in our country. At the same time, we also see that the amount of learning we had in the COVID period is huge. This will act as a great multiplier of what you want to achieve in 25 years. So while we had COVID and the whole world came together, I think this is the biggest learning. And two, three things which I want to say in this. Number one is that in the Amrit Kal period and what we see, the whole healthcare system should be more resilient. Everybody was challenged, every country was challenged. We got to know how good we are in terms of managing health. So what we would see about, let's say, 25 years, our whole healthcare system would be much more resilient and much more prepared for both in terms of how are we managing health today, but if some crisis comes tomorrow. So I think that's something which will be very important. The second thing is about the technology which has already been spoken, that the way Digital India is being done, been in outside of the country, but the adoption during the COVID period, it has been such high. Again, this will act as a big multiplier for our country, given the population which we have. It is existential, I would say, to make health happen for our country. And the third thing is to make it equitable and resilient. I would say that COVID has taught us that how do we invest in health and don't see as an expenditure. So given the population comorbidities we have across the country, if we are much more aware and using diagnostics and not only looking at treatment, right? So the amount of cost we use in treatment versus if we invest in diagnostics, and many companies are doing that, that will really change overall put together. So in nutshell, what I'm saying is that the whole transformation is happening. COVID has given us a lot of learning. This will be a big accelerator. The point which you are making, I think it's possible as we go ahead. The thing which we didn't speak at last was about, Sudarshan ji mentioned about the sustainable. How do we make it net zero? This is something which is coming up now. We didn't speak a lot about it because of the climate change factor which is being spoken. This will get into our corporate working on a daily basis. This is something which was not there, and I think we should see this a lot happening in the Amrit Kaal period. So we all have a role to play, both the multinational companies who is bringing innovation, and at the same time our own Indian companies who are trying to bring innovation to the world as well.
Thank you. Maybe I'll pin you down on the 450 billion later, but for time's constraint, I just want to take off from what you said, the lovely 3 points, and one of them is COVID having taught us to take risks. You know, we're so risk averse in pharma, in India especially, and we kind of limit the growth of healthcare, I would imagine. But I think COVID allowed us to remove many mental boundaries that we had put ourselves, that we always move in the realm of deja vu. And the whole thing about, you know, when you think about COVID has actually 89 crore citizens registered there. We all gave them, we used that to give them certificates and control the entire adverse event of the COVID from blowing up fully. And it is, I would say, one of the world's largest or astounding case studies. When many of the developed markets were actually kind of, struggling on giving that kind of healthcare delivery during that moment of crisis. So one of the things that really comes is, when we talk about digitalization, it always looks like a pie in the sky. And I think COVID broke that. So not only in the, I would say, in the customer experience or the patient handling or, in reach, we've had digitalization, but we also saw it happening in the operations area. Today we have few companies which are already Industry 4.0 compliant, digital twins, improving efficiency. We have, today a mantle of the largest pill supplier to the world. But if it has to continue, you need to digitalize there as well. Your supply chains, we want it to be, next to China. We want to emerge as a regional supply chain power. And all that will come through efficiencies we draw about digitalization. So my next question is on the digital ecosystem. How do you think will the digital ecosystem redefine the future of pharma and improving care and accessibility? We have on one side digital native systems that are coming up, digital native companies. We have the Ayushman Bharat digital mission, and we have platforms that are emerging. So how will the new platforms evolve in the new seamless ecosystems with providers, pharma people, pharma companies, and more importantly, pharma has always wore it in its collar as the running the forefront of healthcare delivery. Are we seeing digital neutralize that? While the share for pharma will go up, how do you see the ecosystem evolving because of this digital ecosystem appearing? So I want to first kind of hand it over to Marut, who heads the digital and medtech for Indegene globally. Marut.
This is good? Yeah. So, Suresh, digital is not just redefining things in India, it's redefining things globally. Any country that is not rethinking their health strategy, basis what we have seen in the last 10-15 years, not just during COVID, will be challenged in the future. You look at US, you look at Europe, I think everybody is going through that phase. And the reason is a lot of context has changed. The facts have changed, the resource deployment has changed. So in my head, India is actually on an advantage because otherwise we would never catch up and provide healthcare to 1.4 billion people. It's never going to happen. So digital, in my head, is a blessing in disguise, right? So think about what we did in digital payments in UPI, right? We could have never caught up to the digital penetration of credit cards. Right? It would never happen. I still remember traveling to US 20 years ago and that being a handicap. Right? And now I feel when I travel to US not having UPIs in hand. So the way this government and our system has changed the behaviors on the financial side is what we're going to see on the digital side. Now specifically on the pharma sector, listen, we've already started seeing a lot of the multinational companies and Indian companies have seen a significant uptick in their revenues because the demand for our products has increased. And that is because the reach has increased. So you look at any of the government initiatives that have been brought in, it's all geared towards providing access. Access means your medicine being required for more and more people, which means better revenues for all of us. Now, having said that, to your point, we have to make sure that the innovative drugs are priced at a point where it can go reach out to those masses, where it can be beneficial for those masses. We have to make sure our supply chain is geared up to go reach tier 3, tier 4, which traditionally has been a challenge for some of our larger organizations. We also have to think about affordability of these medicines to the larger context. The compliance burden that we place on or any digital innovation that we want to bring in as pharma industry into India would see a much higher rigor compared to what it saw. So e-pharmacies, the number of e-pharmacies that have developed, how do they get integrated with the larger supply chain is again going to determine how some of these initiatives succeed. So all in all, Suresh, I think what I feel is we are on the right track. I think we are definitely going in a direction where it would help the country, it will help the people to drive access and affordability. As industry, as OPPI, I think all of us need to think about how do we make sure we integrate and plug into that infrastructure without creating limitations for ourselves.
Thank you. Thanks, Varun. That was very enlightening. To you, Dr. Arvinder, your go-to-market is very heavily digitally dependent. Devices, wearables, and you represent, I would say, in some ways, the future of how healthcare delivery should be. Over to you for your comments.
Thanks, Suresh, for that question. As a doctor, I've been on the other side doing surgeries, managing 2 hospitals, and earlier telemedicine mentioned way back in 2011. So I've seen it all, being on the other side, and now we are partnering with a lot of pharma. So the thought process has changed fundamentally very differently. Like now there are 400 million people on smartphone, and the biggest question of accessibility is now itself getting challenged. So if you put the patient in the center, and what does the patient want? Patient wants good health and outcomes, right? All of us are on the periphery, right from doctor who drives the prescription and diagnosis, to a pharma which drives the right quality of pills at the right price. Then the insurer which is taking care of the cost of the Ayushman Bharat digital mission. Then the regulators and governments overseeing all this process, that it gets done in a way in which data is secure, patient is happy, outcomes are delivered, quality is good. But in the end, pharma has a very important role to play here, and I keep thinking about why is this system functioning little in an isolated way. So what is going good for pharma? If we crack in a nutshell, it's delivering good quality medicines which are effective, getting the regulatory frameworks right, and then distribute them at scale. Whether it's through doctors, whether it's through pharmacies, whether it's through e-pharmacies. I think these 2 pieces, pharma companies have really cracked it beautifully. Now the question for the next 25 years, and Bill Gates said it more beautifully than anybody else, we always overestimate what's going to happen in 3 years, 5 years, and we underestimate what's going to happen in the next 20-25 years. So can pharma lead this revolution, putting the hand in the pie and saying, I will lead this revolution of developing newer therapies. I'm no longer a company selling a capsule or a pill or an injection. I'm a company which is selling any kind of therapy which gives outcomes. It can be an app, it can be a simple algorithm, it can be a medical device which is non-invasive, helping the people diagnose early, track them. So I think where the beauty of whole this system is, companies like us, we struggle with GTM. We have a technology right, algorithms right, but we don't have the GTM, we don't have the regulatory framework, we really suck at that. But pharma companies can just swoop in and say that we are the guys, we know everything else, you guys got the pill, it's a digital pill, we can now distribute it. So I think the whole way the pharma can rethink about all this, moving away from a patient support program to delivering other therapies, which may be not necessarily pills. They may be devices, they may be apps, they may be algorithms, they may be predictive algorithms. Stuff like that is what pharma companies can really contribute to at scale.
Oh, very valid points made. And the last one that you made, I'm sure will ring many people's ears because we're so addicted to patient support programs. And to think of it, to reimagine it in a way that it will improve outcomes and kind of help access is indeed phenomenal.
Yeah, just to add to that, most of the time these PSPs are thought of as a marketing or a companion thing. Can we think of them as a separate P&L and actually distribute them with a margin which is sufficient to maintain the business team? I think that's the value chain we should think about.
Very valid point. Monica, over to you for your thoughts.
I kind of echo what Dr. Arvinder just said. I think a big role for pharma companies to play, in this whole segment. While companies are researching molecules, new chemical entities, biologics, etc., but I think we definitely need to put the patient in the center of everything and see what is it that the patient needs for the cure. So it could be, physical drugs, it could be pills, but now, a lot of these apps that are coming up, so what we call digital therapeutics, I think that is something that is going to play a key role. And I think I showed it also in my video that you can't even imagine how, these technologies are going to help in treatment. So I think pharma companies should really start working towards, creating these digital therapeutics, creating apps that are going to help people not just diagnose, screen, but also monitor their diseases, see how the prognosis are happening, and see if the treatments that they are taking are actually working for them. It's a day and age of customization and personalization. So, it's the message that I would like to give is that we need to work towards the individual and make sure that we come up with, solutions beyond the pill for the patients.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Lastly, to the pharma person here, Novo has been working with med devices, digitally enabled med devices, insulin pumps, insulin devices. So what's your view on this?
In Novo Nordisk also, it's very important part which is actually becoming it's not only the drug, but the digital part of it to give the overall solution. So the new generation of the pens, the systems which are coming, they are quite closed loop in terms of how and when the medication has to be given, the blood glucose meters which are there with different companies. So we are actually trying to integrate those blood glucose meters. So it's basically body talking to the devices and giving those datas. Giving those datas, which is unbelievable. You just see on the left and see myself, we are with these digital devices, right? And earlier it used to give only some steps and maybe VO2. Now it gives the body asymmetry, It's giving, heartbeat, So you will have a lot of these kind of systems which are coming, and we are actually looking into these holistic systems rather than in isolation. So it's not just in isolation, the company or the government or the community. In fact, in terms of the treatment, we are looking at how holistically we treat the disease and look at that outcome.
Well said, Vikram. With that, I'm just aware that we still have 22 minutes, so we will come to that. I want to kind of take our attention back to, drawing from the digital business. We just heard of AstraZeneca, starting a digital health tech business by the acquisition of Evinova, helping accelerate clinical trials and accelerate innovation. I mean, that's a huge step for a traditional innovation company, right? I'm just going to ask you to start on this, Sanjeev, to say that in India's healthcare system, how could we encourage similar alliances and partnerships with government bodies, with people like Dr. Abhinder, and create that ecosystem more and more to improve outcomes and kind of improve reach.
No, I think thank you very much.
Of course, promote innovation.
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, digital will be key because we won't be able to reach so many patients in India without being digital. One of the things which we are doing at AstraZeneca is to look at the impact which we can create. So just for example, is the lung cancer, which is very prevalent, right? And we all know, and the data shows, the science tells us that if you're able to detect cancer at an early stage, you have a chance of patient being survived for 6 to 7 times earlier. So if you do something there, you can actually create an impact. Now we can't, it's not easy, we are detecting cancer at the 4th stage, but it's not easy to, go without digital to have that understanding and diagnose. So what we have done very recently, we announced our first partnership for AI for lung cancer with the government of Karnataka. And this was the first of our local Indian partnership with the purpose of can we detect patients much earlier via digital. And it is very simple. You just look at an X-ray, put an AI on it, and it's not about only lung cancer, it's any lung diseases like 29 modalities. So what we have announced is that in all the 19 district hospitals of Karnataka, this would be established with a partner of a startup which is QAI, which we are doing with AstraZeneca and with the government. And we would like to see some of these things happening to start from a state government and then roll it up at the many states in India and then roll it up to at a federal government level. So I think the important point is when we do digital, what is the purpose and what is the impact we could create, and then make it more meaningful. So this is just one example which we are doing. We are doing globally a lot of things, and we just announced for the clinical trial. We really believe that this is something which we have to come together and partner, and without collaboration, this is not possible. So partnership is critical. While I understand that we can also do digital, but I think not all pharma companies are made to do it everything by yourself. We need to ensure we do more partnerships. That's the important point.
To Dr. Ratna Devi, we in pharma are normally doctor-centric, not patient-centric. So probably that's the reason why you're coming a little later in the pecking order. So that's one of the clear mindsets that I think the Indian pharma is trying to overcome. Lovely to have you here, and just want to hear you out, Dr. Ratna Devi, because you're so involved with patients. You also connect in your past experience aspects of treatment and then see how you can get it to a patient-centric level. So, pharma traditionally doesn't think like that. So how would you, answering this question of how would pharma company be able to partner or ally with data providers to understand better of patient trends, and how do they kind of be talking about personalized therapies these days? What are your views on this, and what would your advice be to the Indian pharma to kind of ally and partner? How could they go about it?
Thank you for asking me that question, and I think you began by hitting the nail on the head by saying we come last with the pecking order. And I would also like to, sort of focus on the fact that while we talk about patient-centeredness, there is this language that is always referred to, saying nothing about us without us. But then when the actual dialogue happens and the patient is missing in the room, or the voice is missing in the room. We also talk a lot about co-designing, co-producing, co-creating, and co-delivering. But when it comes to patient-centeredness, it's only at the treatment level that this dialogue happens. The whole journey to the treatment, from when the awareness of the disease is there, to the diagnosis, to the entry into a healthcare system, whether it's a doctor or a hospital, there is no dialogue with the patient and nobody wants to talk to the patient. I'd also refer to a document that was published in May of 23 this year by the World Health Organization that is a framework of meaningful involvement of people living with non-communicable diseases, and that framework clearly defines the patient as an expert. However, when we talk about the pharma, then we are consumers, and when we talk about the government, then we are beneficiaries. That language needs to change if there has to be a collaboration with patient groups. We are not consumers, we are not vendors. So when there's a partnership with patient groups, we get a vendor onboarding form. We are not a partner. So unless the mindset changes to including patients right at the beginning, and there is a language change, a mindset change, and a behavior change, it's very difficult to have a partnership. Now, partnerships and collaborations are already happening with medtech, with health tech, with pharma, with government, but each of that is in its silos depending upon their business outcomes. It's not the health that is there as the ultimate goal. So when people look at health and health of the individual, health of the community, and health of the nation as an outcome, then I think this silo partnership will move out and there will be integrated collaborative partnerships that actually look at the whole nation achieving a health outcome that's beneficial to all. Whether it's a business goal or whether it's a personal goal as a person who has that particular disease and who wants a good outcome. The last point that I want to stress on is when we look at Amrit Kaal, it's not treating people with AI or nanotech or bots. It's how do you prevent the disease. I want people to be healthy. I want nation to be healthy. So can we look at AI, digital, medtech, whatever we have as a future to prevent diseases, to be able to predict diseases so that we have lesser people becoming sick and going to the hospital rather than reaching the sick people in the village using it.
Thank you. Those were very pertinent comments. And in fact, my next question was going to be to you, but I guess we have about 1.5 minutes left. But I will ask you the question anyway for you to answer and perhaps have closing comments from everybody generally on this topic. So in what ways can we empower patients to play a more active role in their healthcare? And how will the increasing availability of health data, patient autonomy, impact patient autonomy and decision making? That's something I thought I will ask you to comment before I kind of ask every member to give closing comments on this topic. Please.
I'll quickly say what I have to say about empowering patients. First is to recognize patients as part of the ecosystem. I think right now, neither the industry nor the government recognizes us as part of the ecosystem. So once you recognize, how do you enable? So do we have a system where patients are able to understand what they need to ask or what they need to do regarding their healthcare decisions? The enabling is also to make patient organizations sustainable. Right now you have event-based sponsorships, so you have very short sponsorships, and that doesn't give sustainability. And patient groups are not recognized by the government as equal partners to have projects with the government. So I think both ways both partners have to work. Encourage us. I think that encouragement is missing. Please encourage patient groups to become independent and function as independent institutions that actually bring that expertise to the table. Then educate us. We do not have institutional mechanisms to enable patients to educate themselves on what drug discovery is, what health technology is, or what pharmacovigilance is. They do not understand. They are passionate, but they do not have the tools to be able to dialogue on a patient advisory board or on a health technology advisory board. And most importantly, please execute the promises that we make. Most promises are broken after they are made. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So, very well said, Doctor. So, I think what we realize in building technology for patients, startups are brutal. We get very bad reviews immediately put out the first app. So, patients are directly involved in, and I get bad advice everywhere, right from investors to patients to colleagues to employees to partners. So, what we realize, what really works in involving the patient is a ACO framework. Awareness, choices, outcomes, and the data drives all of this. Getting aware is a process, getting educated, understanding your risk, understanding predictive, and their data is humongous. And in our first version of the app, we gave so much of data to patient, they got confused. So data itself is one of the problems, but how to visualize the data in a meaningful way for a different set of patients is the problem to solve. Then based on that data is coming from devices, data is coming from blood tests, data is coming from doctor consultations, your app interactions, everywhere the data is coming from. How do you trigger a plan which is AI and generated at scale, keeping the sensitivity of cost effectivity? How do you give choices, meaningful choices for that patient at scale, so that they can get the outcomes? Now, outcomes is very misunderstood. A lot of time doctors are giving only HbA1c, for example, outcome, but the patient is looking for something else. Stress, sleep, productivity, happiness, quality of life. So I think this ACO framework, if we implement awareness, choices and outcomes in every therapy, I think will be successful.
That's very useful. Thank you. And I think we have run out of time, but instead of passing it to everybody, I will request you, Mr. Jain, to kind of give your closing comments, and then we'll wrap up this panel discussion.
So thank you very much, Suresh, and thank you for the outstanding panel, what we had. Three key messages which I take from here. Patient is the center of everything what we do. We exist for patient, point number one. Point number two is collaboration. Whether it is government or industry, whether all sectors of the industry, collaboration with patients, collaboration with academic organizations, that is the second becomes very, very important. And the third is, we are at that inflection point. This is the decade for India, and India will play a primary role in becoming the health and education. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Request you to come together for a picture while I invite Mr. Manoj Saxena, President-elect OPPI, to please join us on stage and give a small token of our gratitude to our moderator and our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for this really insightful panel. Can we have a big round of applause for them? Thank you so much.